Welcome to the Street Dog Podcast, brought to you by the Street Dog Coalition. We are a national nonprofit providing free veterinary care and related services to pets of people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. I am your host, Daria Tavana, and I am the Director of Development at the Street Dog Coalition. So if you're tuning in live on Facebook, hello, it is fabulous to have you here. Go ahead and let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from. Maybe tell us what brought you here today. I love learning why our listeners are tuning in. And don't hesitate to ask a question or share a comment if you feel inspired to. And I know that oftentimes we get a lot of questions about our origin story, what inspired us to start the Street Dog Coalition, questions about the seed that really sparked this tree that now is this organization. And I'm really, really excited because today we are going to get a glimpse into our home base at the Street Dog Coalition. A little bit about our Fort Collins team and a lot of it about all the incredible work that they're doing on the ground. So on today's episode, we are joined by Dr. Elizabeth Bauer and Dr. Jane Higgins. And Dr. Elizabeth Bauer is a retired veterinary technician, program director, and team lead of the Street Dog Coalition in Fort Collins. What's up, Fort Collins? She brings extensive experience in teaching and a passion for promoting collaboration between vet and tech students to provide care for underserved, very deserved, but underserved pets and their caretakers. And Dr. Jane Higgins is a retired human physician. I love that we make that distinction between human and pet. Is a retired human physician who heads the medical clinic at the Murphy Center, which I know many of our listeners are familiar with, in Fort Collins. She has been a crucial part of the both ends of the leash approach that we love so dearly at the Street Dog Coalition. She's been working alongside Elizabeth to provide holistic care for pets and their caretakers in these underserved communities. So welcome to the podcast, Jane and Elizabeth. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daria.
Yay! Yay. So this is so lovely. I first of all always love it when both of our guests are in like one place. I think that's very cool. How very pre-COVID of you. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it just speaks just visually just speaks volume to the connection that you two incredible leaders have with one another, with the work that you do. And I'm stoked to kind of just dive into the good stuff. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your clinics in Fort Collins. And I should actually say for our listeners who may be new to the podcast, welcome. As you may or may not know, we actually have street clinics in over 60 cities across the country. And we seem to be growing at a very exciting rate, but Fort Collins is considered our home base. So it's very exciting for us to be navigating this conversation today. So I'm curious, maybe you guys can tell me a little bit about your clinics in Fort Collins and maybe share with us. I'm imagining it's going to be hard to pick one, but share a heartwarming story or memorable moment from a Murphy Center clinic that highlights the impact that you have on both pets and their people.
Okay, well, I will start. I'll just say that I have known John Geller for a number of years. When I was in vet school, way back 20 something, almost 30 years ago, I was interning and he had a mobile clinic at the time, and he came into the clinic I was interning at, did some x-rays, and then I saw him at other community things with veterinary medicine, our Larimer County Vet Med Association meetings. I was at Front Range Community College in the veterinary technician program for 16 years. And he sponsored speakers for our vet tech club. So then when I saw that he was starting Street Dog, I realized we needed to get our students involved with that, our tech students. So that's one of the things that I think is pretty unique about this clinic, is that it is at a great facility, and I'm going to let Jane talk about that. So that's kind of a wonderful thing. And it brings together the CSU vet students with the Front Range Community College vet tech students. We don't have as many technician students as they have vet students. And the vet students are there with a clinician from their community practice rotation every week, except for a couple of weeks in the wintertime on their winter break. So they are there all the time. And the technician students are there for about maybe 5-6 weeks at this point. We're still catching up with some COVID when COVID hit, because technician programs are very hands-on. A lot of students kind of dropped back and said, I just want to do this part-time, or I want to come back when I can do more in-clinic work. So anyway, it's a wonderful collaboration that way. And it's actually a part of the mission. So we have to give these students time to work up the cases. We let the vet students take the lead. They talk to the client, they get a plan together, and then they come to the veterinarians who are there. There's one from Street Dog and at least one from CSU. And then they take the case from there. We help them from there. The technician students will help them. And we have some wonderful technician volunteers that come. One of them, one of our graduates. And CSU also brings one of the Front Range graduates who helps with services from CSU. So that's another thing that we can do. Wow. Is if it's got to be pretty low key. We're not doing anything super fancy, not a TPLO or something like that, not a knee surgery for a dog. But they can do some minor surgeries. They can do spays and neuters at CSU. We also have some fabulous community partners, Animal Friends Alliance. They will also do spays and neuters. And we have some community veterinarians that will provide services. And we're talking about like one dentistry a month, that sort of thing. So this is really a wonderful community partnership. So I'm going to let Jane talk about.
So the human health partnership came along little less than 4 years ago, when the University of Colorado School of Medicine opened a branch at CU's big rival, Colorado State University. So in the health center at CSU, where I used to work, the 4th floor is now the School of Medicine branch campus for University of Colorado. Very interesting. With a max of 12 students per year, which is just ideal.
Wow.
Early on, when the first students started arriving, they needed to participate in a community service rotation. And a couple of the students picked Dr. Geller's organization. So they started coming to the Murphy Center, to the Street Dog Coalition clinics, eventually to do some health screening. And I joined because they were looking for some licensed professionals to supervise and help teach the medical students. And so our role there is kind of morphed. Well, it's evolved. Mostly what we do is we talk to the owners of the companion animals. Probably the biggest thing we do is the emotional support animal forms, which is always very heartwarming, because this means that these people are getting housing. And as they get housing, they of course need to be able to bring their companion animals with them. And these forms will allow them to be housed in places that might not take just pets. So our interaction typically is to see somebody who needs an emotional support animal form. And part of that requires a medical evaluation, pretty minimally, but we have to find out a little bit of medical history. great experience for typically the first year medical students
Yeah.
to practice getting a history and maybe a little exam. And of course, as you talk to people, things open up. They have established their trust in Street Dog, which gives us a little bit of immediate trust. And so they may say, well, can I ask you about this thing? Could you get me this prescription? And we're very limited in what we can do, but occasionally we can get some bridge prescriptions. A big goal is to get people established with a primary care physician. Being there for 2 hours once is not a clinic. But we're kind of a link to the medical.
And can I ask you, this is so helpful. And can I ask you one question real quick, which really piqued my interest? You meant, and we don't talk about this enough on this podcast. Can you maybe speak a little bit to how having someone there to care for to care for the animals that belong to these individuals, how does that help you build trust with these individuals so that they maybe believe you have their best interest at heart, so that you're able to kind of move through medical examination processes a bit faster? How does that look to you? And maybe some people who don't have lived experience maybe don't understand that. Maybe you can shine a light on that.
First of all, they worked with the Street Dog people, and so there's some underlying trust.
Great.
We welcome their animals into our little clinic room, which is not usual in the medical world. And that's very important because many people don't go to doctors, partly because they can't bring their animal with them. And if there's nowhere to leave the animal, then they're just not going to go.
Yeah.
Some of our best examples have been at our outreach clinics to underserved areas in rural Colorado. And our medical students have sometimes worked with the vet students when there are a lot more people to see the vet than to see the medical team. And they'll talk with the owners and say, hey, we could do screening for diabetes for you. We could talk to you about your questions. No, we don't want to do that. But after 10 minutes spent with their animal, holding their animal, talking with the people and talking with the animals, they'll say, well, okay, we'll come talk to you about it. Maybe I could do my screening for diabetes. So it's really a cool partnership.
Yeah, I'm betting too that as people are getting help with their animals, they're remember, oh, hey, I do have this thing that it might be I should take care of myself. But they are getting services for free. And I think that also it kind of lowers barriers because normally they'd be looking at, well, what is this going to cost me? So
Yeah.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And I also appreciate how hands-on and engaged having these incredible students there to kind of learn and support the organization at the same time. And I'm curious to know what kind of advantages come with having these students? Like, what kind of perspective do they bring? Like a fresh perspective? Do they kind of keep you on your toes? I can see, what's in it for them in terms of them getting, incredible hands-on experience. But what's in it for you guys? What are the benefits of having such young, brilliant minds who are eager to help at your side? What's that like?
Well, I love it because I've been working with students, obviously, so it's just like, it feels at home because I retired from teaching, except for this little bit. So I love it. The tech students are at the end of both the vet students and the tech students, kind of sounds different from the medical students, are at the end of their education. And so they are beginning to kind of learn their roles, or finish learning their roles, being able to act and feel good about what they're doing. I also think we have a variety of ages of people that come to the clinic. And I do think that, this is going to be probably going to make some people's weeks. And to have these young students, mostly young, we have older students too, but they're generally younger, they're excited about what they're doing. And I think that that brings an enthusiasm. And we're always learning stuff. We don't know everything. And somebody who's in the medical profession who says they know it all, maybe you should run the other direction, because
Good to know. You heard it here, folks. This is excellent life advice.
Yeah, we're always learning things. So I don't know, that it's second nature to me to have students around.
It is for me too. I did my career working in the Student Health Center at Colorado State University. So students have always been my world, keeping me on my toes, letting me know what's going on in a world different from mine. So it's that is the same with this bunch of medical students. And this is an incredible group of students who are kind of selected for being independent learners, which makes them often people who have had previous careers, and they bring that part of their lives
cool.
into their medical school education. Having been retired for a few years, they are always either asking me questions that, oh, I got to learn this, or try to catch back in my brain for it, or telling me new stuff. And that's wonderful. The other thing I love about it is that I'm seeing this group of amazing students, and they're the future for both my profession and for my future medical care. And I love it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. And I think, what we hope to impart to them is to recognize other members of the community that they may not have touch with, so that they remember when they go into practice, hey, there is a population that still needs your help. And I think, I know for me, this has been a wonderful experience for me, as far as I feel that I'm continuing in my profession. I am learning stuff every week, and I'm giving back in a way that I couldn't when I was in practice, because I had to present people with a bill, and I always had to have plan, B, C, and D, and sometimes even that wasn't enough. So to be able to just give some help is just very rewarding.
That's really beautiful. And I love it whenever we get our veterinarians and like social workers and all different kinds of individuals in this podcast sharing an experience similar to what you just spoke about, how it in a way reminds them of why they went into this industry in the first place, right? Which was to kind of help people. And then, of course, once you start a business as a veterinarian, or you become a partner somewhere, or you join a bigger corporation, you have to worry, of course, about finances, about, bills, about receiving payments. And it's beautiful to hear that this has kind of given you an opportunity to just give back to the community. And I'm curious if maybe you can kind of share with us. I know I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, you're part of the original and one of the most active teams of the Street Dog Coalition. Are there any challenges that you have found that are maybe specific to the Fort Collins community when it comes to providing veterinary care to these underserved individuals? And how have you kind of navigated these challenges?
Any
It's a pretty universal situation.
Go ahead, share the universal situation. We love relatability here. Lay it on us.
There are increasing numbers of people who are unhoused, and unfortunately, it's a wicked problem. Perhaps what we have that some other places don't have is such a collaborative response. And it still leaves lots and lots of holes. But the Murphy Center and its parent organization it's a hub for providing services, which I think is unique. I mean, it may happen in lots of other places, but it's at least incredible that people can come to the Murphy Center, which is not a shelter, and get help with getting on the list for housing, getting documentation, driver's license, etc., referrals for dental care, vision care, general health care, harm reduction programs, mental health counseling. Many organizations come to the Murphy Center to provide their services right there because transportation is an issue. They help with bus passes, other kinds of
getting ID, which is, I guess, a huge barrier.
Getting
also,
Medicaid, which is quite helpful.
Job help, writing resumes, and there is a room with clothing in it, and a little dog food, and
showers, laundry, email, computer access, mail. So they have an address, phones. They
Wow.
provide cell phones.
There's a food bank just a couple of notches down. So it's a great resource. And so when you said challenges, I feel like we have a lot of really wonderful things.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of your challenges have been addressed and solutions have been created to address these challenges. And I'm wondering, what our country would be like if we were to kind of take a look at the Murphy Center and all that the Murphy Center provides and does for your community, and if we were able to kind of just replicate that across the country, how amazing that would be. And I know we have a comment on Facebook from John Mark, who is a friend of our podcast, a friend of mine, has received services from the Street Dog Coalition before. I believe at the Murphy Center. John Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. But he commented and he said, these two women are the shakers in their community, and they understand the front line of homelessness. So it's very exciting and inspiring to hear your story, because I have found that a lot of us, activists, social justice warriors, people who see, racial inequity, financial inequity, and want to do something about it, oftentimes we feel helpless. So just hearing how you have collaborated with other individuals who have identified not only a problem, when it comes to ensuring that pets of people experiencing homelessness get the veterinary care they deserve, but to really be able to identify the fact that this leash is actually a lifeline to the individual as well. You've gone above and beyond in terms of helping these individuals get medical attention that they oftentimes may not even know that they need pressing medical attention. But the idea of providing them with um you know uh all of the job applications, internet, an address, it is so heartwarming and so exciting, because I know that the individuals that you serve oftentimes have never had that level of stability in their life, right? The things that we take for granted in our own life now, it's just, I realize I'm rambling now because I'm very excited and I'm very moved by what you do, but it's just so exciting because we all feel that these individuals, all individuals, that level of normalcy, I believe, is like a birthright, but not everyone gets access to that. So it's exciting to hear that you guys you've identified challenges, you've identified solutions, and you're putting things in motion. And maybe you can share with us, as part of my last question here, how your vision for the future of the Murphy Center clinics, what does that look like? And maybe you can tell us a bit more about the impact you hope to achieve in the community through your continued efforts with the Street Dog Coalition at the Murphy Center. What's on the horizon?
Do you?
Well, we're in, um, we're in a transition state.
Yeah.
The Murphy Center's parent organization got a grant to open a 5-day-a-week clinic in the space that we were using for our Tuesday afternoons.
Wow.
Which is wonderful for them. But it makes uncertain where our team fits in for the future.
Yeah.
And whether we'll continue at Murphy Center or whether we'll shift our efforts to one of the other Street Dog Coalition clinics.
Oh, wow.
So we have a place. We just don't know exactly where or what that's going to be.
Very cool.
So that's
it's a simple matter of physical space there in some ways, because I mean, we just described a whole host of services and things that the center provides, and it's busting at the seams. They honestly could enlarge. They have an outdoor space, which in Colorado is great for a good part of the year, but not all of it. And so this clinic is going to kind of encroach on some of the space that the human side has used, which, I mean, maybe we will maybe the veterinary side will collaborate with the new side, the Summit Stone Health Clinic. We don't know. We're trying to figure things out as we go along, and we've been reaching out and trying to figure it out.
But there are plenty of opportunities for us, more than we can provide.
Yeah.
That's great.
But I'll tell you what, another little thing that has been really neat with having the medical students there is, on the rare days when we're not super busy, we will have a little rounds version at the end, and we'll have the students present their cases and talk about them, and we'll hear, the human side sometimes, and they'll hear the veterinary side, and it's really interesting.
It is really fun. It's a One Health huddle.
Yeah.
And the CSU branch of the medical school promotes itself as a One Health campus.
Wow.
Because of the vet opportunities, and so that we learn from each other.
Yeah,
and it's been really fun.
So that would be a really bad thing to lose.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, but
Yes.
Yeah.
Fingers and toes crossed. You don't lose that. And I'm really excited. We just got this other question in from what might be my new favorite name for a sanctuary, which is the Black Cat Coven Sanctuary. I am obsessed with that name as a spooky queen and cat lover. I love that name, and it's a really great question. And it was exactly the kind of question I was hoping we would receive. Black Cat Coven Sanctuary says, as someone who is recovering from houselessness, I was able to experience a lot of the gaps you are addressing and would love to implement something like this in my community. Do you offer any mentorships or guidance for those who want to follow in your footsteps? So before I let you answer this question, I will let our listeners know that I am including the link to our website, the Street Dog Coalition website, in the show notes. So if you check out a replay of this episode, you'll find it in the show notes. And I know that most of our team leads, as I'm sure you are always open to feedback and questions from the community as well. So please, Black Cat Coven Sanctuary, do not hesitate to reach out to our two guests. And now I will let you actually answer that question.
Well, we didn't really do this, the collaboration that we're talking about, but I think it is looking in your community and finding the resources and trying to integrate them, pull them together a bit. And I mean, we're just kind of lucky that the Murphy Center, it's the Murphy Center for Hope. It was founded by a sister, I believe.
Sister Mary Alice Murphy.
Yes, yeah. I know that we work with the Salvation Army in Loveland. So I think it's a matter of looking at what is there and or what's on the horizon for your community. And then, we have the luck of having medical school, veterinary school, technician school. There's many more technician schools out there that may be good to partner with.
Really good advice.
Yeah, and maybe nursing as well on the human side. That's not something that we've gotten into, but yeah, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on
No,
creating.
I think finding the resources that exist and partnering is a good start. There's still so many gaps. One thing
Yeah.
that we talk about is the fact that the shelters will not take people with their animals, and so that forces a lot of rough sleeping, which certainly from the human health side, we see as a big, scary risk in weather like this, where it dipped to minus 19 degrees.
Right.
And many of these pets are great around people.
Right.
But there's always some where it would just be very difficult for them to be inside. And we have had I don't know that maybe we've had overnight. We've had doggy daycare. The clinic, or not the clinic, but the facility that provided the doggy daycare vouchers, they sold to another owner. And I don't know if we will get that opportunity back, but it was a really nice thing to be able for people to house animals while they went to a doctor's appointment or went to a store or something like that, job interview. So, yeah, it's really hard, and people don't want to leave their animals overnight.
Yeah. Yeah. And who could blame them? And what I'm hearing as kind of the overarching takeaway here is this idea that help comes in some of the more unexpected places. Sometimes these, the partners that you've mentioned today, some of the partners that other volunteer veterinarians have mentioned on this podcast, they are people who are not necessarily doing exactly what you're doing. They're not necessarily providing free veterinary care to pets of people experiencing homelessness, but rather, there is, in terms of like a Venn diagram, there is some crossover. There is some shared vision for the world. There is a shared mission. There is some excitement between, like you and a doggy daycare place, or what you do and what the Murphy set, what kind of world the Murphy Center envisions. So I love this advice that you're sharing, kind of encouraging us to think outside of the box, and reach out to individuals and organizations um, who have resources, who have time, who have energy, who have staff, who are passionate. And sometimes that's hard in the nonprofit world, but those organizations and those individuals are definitely out there. So Black Cat Coven Sanctuary, please keep us posted on on your journey and on your findings. And of course, reach out to us. I would love to learn more about you. With a name like that, that's so cool. I was actually just this weekend, I went to some really cool concert, and there was a nonprofit like tabling in the back of the concert, and they are a horror themed cat rescue. How cool is that? So they rescue cats off the streets of Philadelphia, and they give them all these really cool like horror movie names. And if you're like a total weirdo like me, that just really speaks volumes. I actually have their little card right here. Kitten Snatchers, that's their name. So cute, so cute. So I love it whenever we get, amazing people, like Black Cat Coven Sanctuary coming on the podcast, asking their questions. Cause I always feel like when that happens, it's kind of the first step to something bigger. And I want to share, and I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to chat with me today. So lovely hearing both sides of the coin, learning about the work that you both do. And I want to encourage anyone who is listening, who is interested in getting involved in Fort Collins at the Murphy Center, volunteering. I've heard so many incredible stories about how rewarding it is to volunteer. And I know you guys are always looking for not only techs, but you're also looking for social workers. You're looking for sometimes even barbers, people who are willing to maybe document some of the stories that are happening there. So I want to encourage everyone who's listening to reach out to us, take a look at our website, fill out our volunteer form, and come on down to see what the magic is all about. And Black Cat Coven Sanctuary says, I appreciate your feedback. I will definitely have to look into Kitten Snatchers. Yeah, it's a really cool organization. They said, with my experience as a tech and groomer and working in dog boarding and daycare, I have faith I can implement a great program. Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, that just made my day. I'm going to reach out to you, Black Cat Coven Sanctuary. Maybe we can get you on the podcast so we can learn more about you too.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for chatting with me. This was so cool. I want to, end this the way I started this, which was thanking you both for your time today and every day. I know it's not an easy feat what you're doing at the Murphy Center, and just please know how much of a difference you're making in the lives of not only the people that you help at the Murphy Center, but people listening to this podcast who need a bit of inspiration and guidance. Really want to just thank you so much.
Well,
Thanks,
thanks, Daria.
Yeah, I love that. You guys are got everything in unison. Amazing.
Yeah, we practiced. So,
And thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Jane, Elizabeth, until next time. I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.